YouTube? So I wanted to come back with day 2 of my NBA rankings, and yesterday I did my point guards. So today I'm going to be doing my shooting guards. A little backstory for the rankings. If you guys did not watch the video yesterday, first of all, go check it out. I'll be putting the link in the description below as well as in the outro. And then basically what I was saying is I'll be doing rankings for college basketball, college football, and then the 4 major professional sports, NBA, NHL, and will be in NFL. So, like I said, I'm starting with the NBA, and this is part 2. So, when I'm going to be doing this one the same way as yesterday, top 10 then with the 3 outside. So go ahead and move into the rankings. So start with the 3 outside, and my first player is the shooting guard for the Boston Celtics, and that is Avery Bradley. So Avery Bradley's honestly been having a pretty efficient year. Like, he's shooting pretty good, 44%, better than I think some people expected him to be this year. Again, it was a pretty crowded backcourt to start the year for the Celtics. It still is. But Avery Bradley, like I said, has been having a pretty solid year, averaging close to 15 points per game, shooting okay, around 44%. But like I said, a guy that's been having a pretty efficient year, and a guy that has had a lot of potential since he's been in the NBA, but it looks like he's really starting to fulfill it. All right, so move on to my number 2 in the 5 outside. And I got the shooting guard for the Clippers, and that is J.J. Redick. So J.J. Redick is averaging pretty good point total this year. I believe it's a career high for him. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. He's averaging 16 points per game, and like I said, it's been a pretty good year so far for J.J. Redick. He's shooting right around 48%, which is obviously very good, but he's more of a shooter, so that's good. I think his 3-point numbers might be actually a little bit down this year, making around 2.5 to 3 3-pointers per game. So, like I said, I'm not 100% sure on his career averages, but this year he's been playing pretty solidly for a Clippers team that's having a little bit of a down year. So move on to my last one on the 3 outside. And for the Wizards, I have Bradley Beal. So, Bradley Beal, a guy that has had another guy that's had a decent year, putting up his normal numbers around 18 points per game, 45% shooting with what is one of the better backcourts in the NBA with him and John Wall. And I think that Bradley Beal's problem, of course, through his career has just been injuries. And it's sad to see, but it happens, and hopefully it can get corrected soon enough. Alright, so moving to the top 10, and at number 10, I've got the point guard / shooting guard, mainly shooting guard, though, out of Indiana, and that is Monta Ellis. So Monta Ellis has really been having a pretty good year, averaging right around 14 points per game, actually around 2 steals. His defensive numbers are like career highs right now, which is kind of weird for a guy like Monta Ellis, who is normally known as defensive liability. But he's shooting right around his normal field goal percentage at 44%. Normally not an extremely efficient shooter, but he's got good averages this year, like I said, around 2 steals per game, 5 assists, and 14 points. And playing for a Pacers team that's been up and down this year, but as a whole has been pretty good. Alright, so move on to my number 9, and this guy could be really put at either small forward or shooting guard, but I ended up putting him at shooting guard, and that is Andrew Wiggins. So obviously he plays for Minnesota. Averaging point or scoring, very, very capable scorer is what I'm trying to say, and really a guy that I would say hasn't even come close to failing his potential in his career. I believe the 2014 number 1 overall pick, and the last 2 nights he's been extremely solid, averaging right around 30.5 points over the last 2 games. And coming on a little bit stronger, which is good. Something good to see. But like I said, a guy that's 6'8", so he's tall for a shooting guard, but he fits in at either spot. He normally does play at the 2 from what I've seen this year. But anyway, move on to my number 8 shooting guard, and I've got kind of this still superstar, I guess. Shooting guard out of Miami, and that is Dwayne Wade. So Dwayne Wade, when healthy this year, has been very good. Averaging right around 19 points per game, about 5 assists and 4 rebounds. He's been shooting okay, probably right around his career average, around 45%, 46%, right in that range. But like I said, a guy that, and he's stayed pretty healthy this year, which is good. Still having to take the occasional night off, but that's kind of the point in his career he's gotten to. But as a whole, like I said, he's been a pretty efficient scorer this year. He's been a good player, really better than the last few years. So, yeah, like I said, obviously a guy, if he was fully healthy, would be higher up on this list, but that's just not the way his career's at, or that's just not the point his career's at now. Alright, so move on to my number 7 shooting guard, and I've got the Charlotte Hornets shooting guard, and that is Nick Batum. So, Batum, guy that has had a rough stretch along with the Hornets really over the past month. Excuse me. A guy that started off the season incredibly well and has been off and on injured. I believe he just got over a toe injury. Like I said, a guy that has been steadily falling down my list and really over the course of the season. A guy whose player efficiency rating has also dropped drastically. But like I said, as a whole, I think he's capable of being the 7th best shooting guard, and I still think he is at this point in the league. Alright, so move on to my number 6, and I've got the Trailblazers point guard / shooting guard, mainly shooting guard though, and that is CJ McCollum. So McCollum has kind of been the dark horse that emerged this year for the Portland Trailblazers. He's been their really secondary scoring option behind Damian Lillard this year, and something that they really drastically needed. And he's averaging right around 20 points per game, 4 assists, around 3.5 to 4 rebounds, shooting around 44-45% as well. Again, a guy that came through in a big way this year, obviously crushing his career high for points per game, and like I said, a scoring option that the Blazers just really desperately needed, and he's come through in a big way, like I said, and really kept the Blazers alive in the West. So move on to my number 5, and I've got player for the Magic, Victor Oladipo. So Oladipo has led a Magic team that actually has a chance a small chance of the playoffs this year. The East is a little bit more stacked than it has been in years past. Let me look that up right quick, but he's averaging about 14 points per game, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Not shooting great, but getting to the line quite a bit, and shooting pretty good from the line, around 85%. Like I said, one of the most explosive shooting guards in the NBA, very athletic guy, former number 2 overall pick, I believe, back in 2013. And really came out of a weak class, though. He was the pick behind Anthony Bennett. I'm assuming most of y'all who are basketball fans remember that. But let me look this up right quick. Okay, Magic are a little bit far out, about 4 games out of the playoffs. But anyway, like I said, Oladipo, pretty much the heart and soul of that team right now. And yeah, I think a team that has been on the rise for a little bit and hopefully gets good soon. Alright, so move on to my number 4, and I've got a guy who's one of the leaders of the incredibly hot Toronto Raptors right now, and that is DeMar DeRozan. So DeMar DeRozan's scoring at an extremely high pace, around 23 points per game, but he's always been a good scorer, shooting around 45%, which is pretty good as well. Averaging about 4 assists and 4 rebounds per game. Never been much of a guy that would get a lot of those, but like I said, a guy that's been obviously averaging some pretty solid numbers, especially points per game this year. And a guy that, like I said, is leading probably what is the hottest team in the NBA right now in the Toronto Raptors. Alright, so move on to my number 3. And I believe I've got the only white kid in the top 10, and that is true. The shooting guard for the Utah Jazz, and that is Gordon Hayward. So Gordon Hayward averaging around 20 points per game. Been extremely good this year for the Jazz, a Jazz team that came into this year with a lot of hype, and averaging okay numbers, around 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. Very Gordon Hayward type of year. Like I don't think I've said this so far, but I'd probably say the shooting guard position is the weakest depth-wise in the NBA this year. Just thinking through it, obviously the point guard position seemed kind of stacked when I was doing the rankings yesterday. Out of this list, I'd really only say that there's 1 superstar on the list. But anyway, maybe 2. But yeah, like I said, Gordon Hayward, very solid shooting guard. I'd say a top 30 player in the league right now. Alright, so move on to my number 2. And this guy could qualify as a small forward as well, but he's mainly a shooting guard, and that is the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson. So obviously probably forming the best backcourt in the NBA with Steph Curry, and obviously on the best team in the NBA by far. I wouldn't know if you could call him the second best player on that team. It takes a little bit away from Draymond Green, but he definitely puts up a fight for it. Shooting around 48%, making around 3 to 3.5 threes a game. But like I said, 21.5 points per game, extremely efficient shooter, good from the line, about an 85% free throw shooter. And yeah, in my opinion, the clear-cut second best shooting guard in the NBA if you want to slot him there instead of a small forward. So move on to number 1, and it's pretty obvious at this point, and that is the Houston Rockets, James Harden. So averaging around 28 points per game, shooting about 87% from the free throw line. Obviously gets there quite a bit every game, averaging about 10 free throws per game. Shooting about 43%, which obviously isn't great, but that's right around his career high, averaging around 1.5 steals, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, leading a Houston Rockets team that has really been struggling all year. And a team that's still in position to make the playoffs, but not anywhere near what they were expected to do this year in the West. Like I said, a team that really just hasn't been able to get on track, it seems, all season, around a 26-25 record. So a team that was probably I'd say one of the top 3 teams in the West last year, obviously making conference finals. But like I said, I'd say James Harden's still the heart and soul of the team. It's not his fault that they're struggling. It is partly on him, but like I said, just as a whole this year, the Rockets have not been a very unified team. So that concludes my top 10 shooting guard rankings. I will be coming back tomorrow with my small forward. Like I said, if you have not checked out my point guard rankings, go check those out as well. The link will be in the outro and the description below. So I'll probably just put the link to the entire playlist in the description below. So that's pretty much it. So there you go. On YouTube. So today I wanted to do really a new series. So if you guys watched my NFL Draft Big Board series, I actually just finished that one up. So I was looking for a new series to do that I thought would be fun, and I actually came up with 2. And the first one is just a daily top 10 for sports. So I'm going to come